I would like to first apologize for my egregious error of calling the MBTI the MTBI. That is why acronyms should only be allowed to be 3 letters long. If an acronym is longer than 3 letters, it should have to spell a word, like scuba or laser. Anyway, the Barnum effect on an individual level is annoying, but it isn't that impactful. However, we learned last time that you can make Barnum statements that apply to groups of people as well. Just divide people into real or arbitrary groups, then build some general statements about those groups, and presto, you have just constructed bullshit manner. In part 1 of this video, we looked at the basics of the Barnum effect, and how it explains horoscopes, psychics, and the rise of pop psychology. Unfortunately for my sanity's sake, Barnum statements can be made about all kinds of groups of people, or even systems made of people, like a country or an economy. Making these general statements isn't new, but the internet has absolutely juiced this effect. People looking to farm attention almost exclusively use vague, emotionally charged messages. We have seen the re-emergence of politicians who appeal to everyone, or the common person. They may make broad promises like, "We're going to make things better for you," or "You deserve more than what you've been given." The dominant political strategy is making general statements and being impossible to pin down. I don't really think I made any assertions in part 1 that should be too controversial. Part 2 might ruffle some feathers, though.
We will make America great again.
That establishment politics is just not good enough. We need bold changes. We need a political revolution.
No, not you. Not you.
Can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You
is
are
terrible.
attacking our...
Right off the bat, I'll say that this is not a video about my political opinions. It is more of a meta-analysis of the current discourse. Using Barnum's statements in this way is often called populism. Populist candidates will identify popular sentiments about a country or an economy that people don't like, but won't pitch any real solutions. These are statements that are very hard to disagree with, and if you try to dispute a populist on the issues, you will fail, because you miss the whole point that most people already agree with them. The real disagreement comes on what to do about those problems that the populist is identifying. Much like the discussion of mental health, these populist messages are the ones that do the best in the modern digital information space. This use of the Barnum effect on a societal level to gain support is astoundingly successful. Once again, I am not shitting on your political beliefs. I am simply pointing out the strategy being used. We have our own beliefs here at Detailed Diatribes at how to fix problems, but that really isn't the point of this video. When we look at some modern politicians who have gained popularity in America, the winning strategy is to say things so general and obvious that you are able to attack anyone who disagrees with you as disputing undeniable truths. If a populist does pitch a solution, it will be a catchphrase so general that it is hard to dispute, because it doesn't contain any specifics.
The billionaire class, the people on top, are doing phenomenally well, Chuck. The middle class continues to decline. We're seeing increased concentration of ownership in America, which has huge impacts for ordinary people. You got 3 Wall Street firms, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, that have assets of over $20 trillion, controlling hundreds of corporations. You're seeing millions of people unable to afford the cost of prescription drugs, unable to afford health care, unable to put gas in the tank. So how can anyone think that what's going on right now is good? And obviously, what I and other progressives are trying to do is put together a movement which tells the billionaire class in this country, whose profits are soaring, who are getting richer and richer, you know what, you can't have it all. We need an economy that works for the middle class, the working class, the elderly, the children, not just the few on top.
Okay, so Bernie makes the points here that the people on top are doing well, there's increased concentration of ownership, people are unable to afford prescriptions, gas is too expensive, and for his solutions he says that we need to tell the billionaire class that they can't have it all, and we need an economy that works for everyone. Okay, so these are all statements that are true. I don't know if Bernie thinks that most people don't know this, but they do. Most Americans know that wealth is increasingly concentrated among the top 1% or even less than 1%. If you disagree with Bernie, the Bernie bros will think that you're disputing this or on the side of the billionaires, even though you might just see that there's some nuance in how you actually regulate an economy so it, quote, works for all, as Bernie so elegantly puts it. Now, before the Bernie bros get too mad at me, I will say that Trump obviously took this populist strategy and turned it up to an 11. Although I'm not really sure if he knows what he's doing or if it's just his base state of being, but that really isn't the point. I'm not here to psychoanalyze leaders. Just listen to Trump talk about the border in his original campaign and you'll see what I'm talking about.
We have to have strong borders. We have to keep the drugs out of our country. Right now, we're getting the drugs, they're getting the cash. We need strong borders. We need we cannot give amnesty. Now, I want to build the wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall. We stop the drugs. We shore up the border. One of my first acts will be to get all of the drug lords, all of the bad ones. We have some bad people in this country that have to go out. We're going to get them out. We're going to secure the border. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Nice going, guys.
Yeah, nice shots, guys. I want to believe Jay has a lot more class than that, but that was pretty Bush, what you just saw.
Okay, so the points he makes are that we have to have secure borders, and we have to keep drugs out. The solutions he pitches are to build a wall and to get all the bad hombres out. Now, on the surface, statements from both Trump and Bernie like this may not seem that related to the Barnum effect. But if you think about it, what they're saying is more like an economic horoscope than a blueprint to fix any problems. Much like the original Barnum statements, people will take these broad political statements and apply it to their own lives or to their niche political issue. If I just say I'm going to cut taxes, most people will think that I mean their taxes. If I actually lay out a specific tax policy, people can then attack it. So, it is politically advantageous to stay in the realm of broad, sweeping statements that people will just internalize as applying to them. When Trump mentions QAnon or the Proud Boys, or Elon Musk does his ridiculous salute, the strategy in those actions is to get those extremist political groups out to vote for you without explicitly saying that you support their policies. If anyone in the center criticizes you for this, you can just backtrack.
For the former president, he's now distancing himself from the controversial Project 2025.
Given what we saw in part 1, it really shouldn't be all that surprising that the internet is selecting for political Barnum statements as well as other ones. The internet is selecting for these broad statements that people can internalize and apply to themselves in every single domain, from horoscopes to more advanced discussions of mental health, all the way up to the economy and statements about society. These Barnum statements are everywhere, and the internet is only making them more prevalent. In today's day and age, people often tie their views of the economy to what their political party is saying about it more than they tie it to actual economic data. In 2016, over the course of just a few months, we saw Republican views on the economy jump from 20% approval to over 70%. In that same period, Democratic views on the economy fell. We saw this exact same flip happen in 2020, and we are seeing it happen again in 2024. People are not actually connected to what is happening in the economy overall anymore. They are more so paying attention to what the vibe is on the economy coming from their specific political horoscope. When Trump says, we need to keep the drugs out of the country, that is a statement that is so general and so obvious that you can't really disagree with it. And if you try disagreeing with it, you'll end up looking like you're in favor of letting drugs come into the country. Or when Bernie says that wealth is being concentrated in fewer hands, like I said before, everyone knows that. Saying that doesn't do anything. Your job as a congressman is to propose and contribute to bills that could conceivably make it through the House and the Senate to address the problem. In order for the Senate to actually bring something to a vote, you need 60 votes. This pretty much means that to get something done, you have to include at least some members of the other party, unless the previous election was a complete electoral wipeout. In 2025, not many policies are proposed that even have a prayer of ever being brought to a vote. The strategy is just to put things in bills that your voters really want, but make no concessions to the other side. When the bill inevitably gets shot down, you can demonize the other side even harder. If either of these two old men do propose solutions, it is usually something exceedingly simple. A statement like, tax the rich, or build a wall. Never do they touch on the obstacles that might actually come along with doing either of those things. But alas, perhaps 2016 was just an anomaly. Certainly things got better in 2020 and 2024. Let us see what Kamala has to offer in terms of political messaging.
Opportunity economy.
I believe in what we can create in terms of opportunity for the American people. I've named it an opportunity economy.
I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. Page 153.
Now, my worry is that there are entire generations of people who will grow up in this era and begin to think that this is just how politics work. But just hear me out. I assure you that there is a better way. Please, before you go shitting yourself in the comments saying that Trump was proposing extremely nuanced policies, or that Kamala was super detailed in her communication, or that if the Dems had just run Bernie, everything would be solved, please just listen for a second. Allow me to give you some perspective, then you can shit yourself in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong.
Why you booing me? I'm right.
Populism certainly isn't new, but what is new is not even trying to propose policies that have a chance of happening. I went back and watched a lot of old presidential debates. You can see this pattern emerging slowly, but it really exploded in 2016. What you are about to see is a routine interview question taken in a debate by Bill Clinton on gun control and crime.
Tasty. The secret ingredient is crime.
It was not hard to find this, and I literally just took the first statement that I heard Clinton say. In 90 seconds, this man will present ideas more nuanced and likely to pass Congress than we have seen any politician present in possibly 30 years. Now, to frame this problem, crime had been on the rise in America for a while. This peaked in the early 1990s. Now, the scale of this graph is a little misleading, but crime did steeply fall off following the implementation of the 1994 crime bill. We talk about crime in America now as if it's rampant, but anyone who lived in American cities at this time knows that we haven't seen anything of that caliber recently. You can see the little blip in 2020 that had everyone panicking about the rise in COVID crimes. In 1992, though, people were truly fed up and something needed to be done. Yet, the politics and values of America's parties weren't really so different. So, Clinton needed to be crafty to gain broad support across the population. What you are about to see, ladies and gentlemen, is a political masterpiece.
As you are aware, crime is rampant in our cities. And in the Richmond area, and I'm sure it's happened elsewhere, 12-year-olds are carrying guns to school. And I'm sure when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they did not mean for the right to bear arms to apply to 12-year-olds. So I'm asking, where do you stand on gun control, and what do you plan to do about it? Governor Clinton.
I support the right to keep and bear arms. I live in a state where over half the adults have hunting or fishing licenses or both. But I believe we have to have some way of checking handguns before they're sold, to check the criminal history, the mental health history, and the age of people who are buying them. Therefore, I support the Brady bill, which would impose a national waiting period unless and until a state did what only Virginia has done now, which is to automate its records. Once you automate your records, then you don't have to have a waiting period, but at least you can check. I also think we should have, frankly, restrictions on assault weapons whose only purpose is to kill. We need to give the police a fighting chance in our urban areas where the gangs are building up. The third thing I would say, it doesn't bear directly on gun control, but it's very important. We need more police on the street. There is a crime bill which would put more police on the street, which was killed for this session by a filibuster in the Senate, mostly by Republican senators. And I think it's a shame it didn't pass. I think it should be made the law. I also believe that we should offer college scholarships to people who will agree to work them off as police officers. And I think as we reduce our military forces, we should let people earn military retirement by coming out and working as police officers. 30 years ago, there were 3 police officers on the street for every crime. Today, there are 3 crimes for every police officer. In the communities which have had real success, putting police officers near schools where kids carry weapons to get the weapons out of the school, or on the same blocks, you've seen crime go down.
This is an incredibly nuanced look at crime, presenting ideas that would be popular to both sides of the aisle. Now, if you're just looking at this through the lens of your political perspective, the genius won't show through. This bill was widely criticized by both sides and continues to be criticized. The right didn't like it because it included a federal assault weapons ban, which expired in 2004. The left didn't like it because they were concerned about the mandatory minimum sentencing, especially the law that added a 3-strike rule, which meant a life sentence for criminals who were convicted of 3 violent or drug crimes. Despite this opposition by both sides, this bill passed the Senate 95-4. 95-4. Bill managed to package up left-wing policies like increased police education and gun control, but he ties the assault weapons ban to the concept of protecting the police officers. He also backs up his support of the police by not only offering education, but he recommends we need more police officers where needed. And, to top it all off, he ties this all back to helping America demobilize some of its Cold War military personnel, something that also needed to happen in this time. I'm almost certain that there are parts of this bill and of that statement that you don't like. I'm also certain that there's parts of it you do like. That is why this is political art. It is presenting a set of policies that you could put in a bill and potentially get passed with bipartisan support through Congress. Political wheeling and dealings like this are what got the man elected. Now, do I agree with all the things that Bill Clinton did? Of course not. I'm really not even that big of a fan of Bill Clinton. I'm just highlighting some good politicking which resulted in a 95-4 vote in the Senate. If you want to get things done in government, follow that blueprint. There were certainly secondary effects of this crackdown on crime, but also crime did go down. It wasn't perfect, it came with other effects, but you can't have secondary effects if your ideas are so unpalatable that you end up in political gridlock. Now, do I think that modern politicians are intentionally being politically incompetent? Not necessarily. Much like mental health or horoscopes, this is really just telling people things that they want to hear. Maybe this situation is all Trump's fault, or Bernie's fault, or maybe it's Fox News' fault.
Opportunity economy.
Shut up! Tell me what that means, Mamala! But in reality, it is everyone's fault. As a society, we are too stupid to see that problems are complex. You won't get better politicians until yourself, your friends, your state, your city, and whatever other group you find yourself a part of collectively get smarter and demand more nuanced discussion. Politicians lying or promising too much isn't new. Bill Clinton and every politician before him was a liar. What is new is treating the public as if they're third graders. So, the question is, are you dumb enough to just believe your political horoscope?
How stupid do you think I am? Pretty stupid.
When someone comes at you with a solution to a problem like defund the police or build a wall, are you dumb enough to buy into statements with absolutely no backing in how they are going to do that and how you're going to push that through a divided Congress? And if you think I'm just a Bill Clinton stan, I can assure you that I am not. In researching this video, I viewed a bunch of separate American presidential debates that occurred prior to 2000, and I could have pulled almost any response to any question in a town hall or debate from any of those presidential campaigns and highlighted pretty much the same differences. Barnum statements make my head hurt, guys. I have to stop here, but I'll leave you with a randomly selected question answered by some of our leaders who led us through the Cold War. Two men politely discussing their economic positions in a way that respects the intelligence of their audience. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment and subscribe.
Lots of people, I think, don't understand why the government pays farmers for not producing certain crops, or paying farmers if they overproduce, for that matter. Let me ask, sir, why can't the farmer operate like the businessman who operates a factory? If an auto company overproduces a certain model car, Uncle Sam doesn't step in and buy up the surplus. Why this constant courting of the farmer?
Well, because I think that if the federal government moved out of the program and withdrew its support, then I think you would have complete economic chaos. The farmer plants in the spring and harvests in the fall. There are hundreds of thousands of them. They're not able to control their market very well. They bring their crops in or their livestock in, many of them about the same time. They have only a few purchasers that buy their milk or their hogs, few large companies in many cases, and therefore the farmer is not in a position to bargain very effectively in the marketplace. I think the experience of the 20s has shown what a free market could do to agriculture. And if the agricultural economy collapses, then the economy of the rest of the United States sooner or later will collapse. The farmers are the number one market for the automobile industry of the United States. The automobile industry is the number one market for steel. So if the farmer's economy continues to decline as sharply as it has in recent years, then I think you would have a recession in the rest of the country. So I think the case for the government intervention is a good one. Secondly, my objection to present farm policy is that there are no effective controls to bring supply and demand into better balance. The dropping of the support price in order to limit production does not work. And we now have the highest surpluses, $9 billion worth. We've had a higher tax load from the Treasury for the farmer.
Mr. Nixon, comment?
I, of course, disagree with Senator Kennedy insofar as his suggestion as to what should be done on the farm program. He has made the suggestion that what we need is to move in the direction of more government controls, a suggestion that would also mean raising prices that the consumers pay for products and imposing upon the farmers controls on acreage even far more than they have today. I think this is the wrong direction. I don't think this has worked in the past. I do not think it will work in the future. While Senator Kennedy says we are for the status quo, I do believe that he would agree that I am just as sincere in believing that my proposals for federal aid to education, my proposals for health care are just as sincerely held as his. The question, again, is not one of goals. We're for those goals. It's one of means.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.